In 2023, a crack commando unit of retro podcasters joined forces on a panel at LA Comic-Con, but were sent to Comic-Con jail for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped. Today, still wanted by 80s nerds, they are very easy to find. If you have an 80s nostalgia problem, if no one else can help, maybe you can hire the Night Boys.
Like when you left your recorders for the last time and you opened up your safe, what was the combination?
Get a life, will you, people? I mean, for crying out loud, it's just a TV show. You've turned an enjoyable little job that I did as a lark for a few years into a colossal waste of time.
All right, it is LA Comic-Con time, the month that the 80s Kids Unite boys and ladies are going to be at LA Comic-Con at the end of September. This is the preview episode. Oh my gosh, this is the third time now I've done this, and I feel like I sound like Rob Dyrdek. Welcome to Ridiculousness. Today we're going to talk about Chanel West Coast. Anyways, it's LA Comic-Con time, 80s Kids Unite. The four of us are here. It's me, Zach, Diallo. What's going on, Diallo?
Not much. Is that what's his name? Fozzie on the couch?
Fozzie's on the couch. If you guys are not watching on YouTube, go watch on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to both Podcasting After Dark and $2 Late Fee. Fozzie's asleep because she knows when I'm recording. We're not going anywhere. Corey, Sleazy C is here. Corey, what's happening, brother?
What up?
What up, as our good buddy Fern would say. And welcome back to that 80s dude, John Toma. What's happening, dude?
What's up, guys? Hey, thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. I always love being here.
This is really special because this is our kind of preview for LA Comic-Con. We're doing our favorite con moments of the 80s, maybe 90s, but we're not going to fact check each other in this episode. And for those that don't know, if you go to our socials, by this time it should all be out. If you go to our socials, you'll see the panels that the night people are going to be on. It's going to be me, Corey, Diallo, John. It's also going to be Grace, who's been on $2 Late Fee a bunch of times. She's basically my co-host now. Max from Ready to Retro. And some other special guests. Well, one in particular, a very famous actor who has been on Podcasting After Dark and $2 Late Fee, and he's a big fan of one of the topics we're going to be covering in LA Comic-Con. Go to our Instagrams, go to our socials. You'll see it all there. All the info is in there. But we're excited because we're all going to get together for the first time. It's gonna be
fun.
John Thomas. Corey's flying in. John Thomas driving up. It's gonna be fantastic. I don't even know why I'm doing this accent.
Yeah, I was literally like wondering that. I was like, where is this going?
Well, it's taking me back to
He's like a New York Jewish woman from Kate and Alley era.
Diallo, go ahead. Sing a bar from Kate and Alley for everybody to enjoy, please.
Just when you think there's no one around who's caring.
Thank you.
Along
Now I
comes
had
a
that
friend.
locked and loaded.
And things start looking fine. Oh God, I love that so much.
Finish it off if you need
Sometimes tears and sorrow are all the things you've got. Just when you think you're all by yourself, you're not.
If you're not watching this on our YouTube channel, you got to see we're all just like in love right now.
Send me the demo tape. I want the demo tape.
Yeah. But we're talking con moments, con memories, favorite convention memories. You know, LA Comic-Con has been around for a while. Originally, it was called LA Kamikaze, right, Corey?
Oh yeah, the LA Comic-Con. Yeah, originally it was Kamikaze, then it was like Stan Lee's Kamikaze. Diallo, we've been going since pretty much the first iteration of it, and we've seen this thing grow, which I've always loved. I've always loved particularly this con, because it's easy to get to when I lived in downtown LA and everything. So I'm happy to be going back to LA Comic-Con. It'll always be Kamikaze to me, though.
Yeah, I've never been to LA Kamikaze or Kamikaze. I think all of us have been to conventions since we were kids or teenagers at least. And for most of us, that was when we were in the early 90s. So, while we probably wanted to go to cons when we were younger, we didn't actually go until closer to the 90s. But, we're going to share some favorite memories that we have from those times back in the day. And hopefully, we're going to create, no, not hopefully, guaranteed, we're going to create some new memories for the four of us. Well, the seven of us, all the night people. And of course, all of you who were able to attend. If you're not able to attend, too bad. Sorry. Now, if you're not able to attend, hopefully those panels that we're a part of will be a future recording as a bonus episode on Podcasting After Dark and $2 late fee, et cetera, and 80s Kids Unite, of course. But let's just jump right into it. Corey, let's start with you. Corey, back in the day, let's share some favorite convention memories.
Yeah, so I've been collecting comics my entire life. My dad got me my first Superman comic, read it as a kid, and off to the races from there. But I kind of switched over to mostly reading the Dark Horse Aliens, Terminator, Predator stuff, and everything. Specifically, starting with the first Dark Horse Aliens comic that came out in 1988. I think it ran from 88 to 89. It was written by Mark Verheiden and art by Mark Nelson. So being on the East Coast, I couldn't go to like San Diego Comic-Con or anything like that. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. So it's still a city. So we still had cons and everything. And I remember one of my earliest memories is I had each individual issue of what was called at that time book one. It's now called Outbreak. But it was called back then just Aliens Book One, and had the individual issues, but then I had the trade as well. And I took my trade with me. And I'm honestly, I think this might have been in 89 or 90. So I was probably 11 or 12, I think closer to 11. I took it with me because Mark Verheiden was going to be at the convention, which is remarkable because there was never anything big convention wise near us. So I don't know if he was a East Coast guy to begin with. Maybe that's why he was there. And so I had him sign it. I unfortunately don't have it on me. It's in my mom's basement back in Maryland. But I had him sign it. And I remember when I gave it to him, and I actually think Mark Nelson was there too, but he remarked to the other guy that was sitting next to him, like, "Oh, look at the color on this. Look at the printing on this." And I remember being at such a young age, and he was kind of like scoffing at it. Like he was like, "Oh, this is,
Oh.
it doesn't look great." I remember being at such a young age of taking that kind of personally for like no reason, like sort of whatsoever, because I had nothing to do with the printing of it. But he still signed it. He actually drew a little creature in it, not a xenomorph, but a little creature next to his name and everything, and handed it back to me. And it's really cool. Like I said, I still have it in my collection, but I also have that memory of feeling like somehow I betrayed him, like somehow I disappointed him. It's just, and Zach, as a teacher and everything, it's when you're that young, it just is what it is. And
Yeah.
that memory's kind of burned into my head. As I got older, I kept going to cons. And after a while, my mom would drop my buddy Luke and I off and everything around 12, 13 years old. And I remember discovering Air Cell Comics and Warlock 5 and everything like that.
I have all those. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I was a big, still am. I'm a big Barry Blair fan. Big Rips. He passed away like in 2001 or something like that. So I was a big Warlock 5 fan. Everything Aircell put out, I pretty much picked up. And then to kind of round out my memories, I had my first miniseries that I collected in its entirety. My first comic book series that I collected in its entirety was a series called Haywire from DC Comics. It's kind of like a standalone thing. If you read it now, it seems like it doesn't even fit in the DC universe. But I had all 12 issues. There was 13 of them. I had all 12, and I can still remember to this day when I found the 13th issue at a con in Maryland, probably Silver Spring. And just like, I was like, oh my God, I finished it. I collected my first miniseries / run, whatever you want to call it. So those are some of the memories burned into my head. I also would draw pictures and they would have like little art things like people could win, prizes for their art. And I mean, I was like 12 or 11 drawing stuff and everything, and it was fun, whatever. But as a kid, these were my memories. My mom would, as I got a little bit older, 12 or 13, my mom would drop us off there for a couple hours and we would just walk around buying stuff and looking at comics and everything. And it was wonderful. But yep, I'm still still mad at Mark Verheiden or whatever his name is for shitting on my aliens collection. But yeah,
I thought you
those
said
were it.
Verhoeven at first.
I know, yeah, not Mark Verhoeven.
And by the way, he held up some of the comics that he was talking about. So if you're listening to this on the audio feed, go to our video and check out one of the images, which looks like a Bionicle, by the way.
Oh, please don't compare
Sorry.
Haywire to Bionicle.
I'm sorry, that helmet looked like I'm just saying Lego ripped it off, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
John, you said you had some of those comic books that Corey held up.
I've got the entire Warlock series, and I used to collect, like Corey, I used to collect Terminator books and Alien books. I was just so into that universe. I was never like 100% into like the superhero comics. I did read a few like ASM, Amazing Spider-Man, Batman books and things like that, but I wasn't into like a lot of the other stuff. I mainly read independent books. Dark Horse. I love Dark Horse books. I really liked DC's Vertigo line.
Oh, yeah.
The early stuff. I have a ton of that. In fact, I'll kind of take you for a quick tour. You mind?
Please,
Anybody
please.
who's listening, you might want to check out the YouTube video. And so this is, I was just showing you guys this thing earlier, which is the first issue of this. Now, this is the 91, or this is the 1990 issue. I'm trying to adjust the camera of Terminator. There are earlier versions. I've got that entire set. In fact,
John, do you have the Now Comics Terminator stuff?
I do. I have all of them.
Yeah. Do you remember the Alex Ross Burning Earth series?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. In fact, I'm just taking you in here, just kind of at some of my PC, just a few of my PC books there. They're in the green. But here, I was just saying, I was also into. I'll show you over here. I was also into a lot of the Predator books.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of my favorite characters. Obviously, one of my greatest films of all time, 1987, Predator. But I collected a lot of that stuff. I'm trying to see if I can pull out all of the early Now comics. I put them in here somewhere, but probably should have been prepared for this.
No, it's okay. Perfect timing that John is pulling out that Predator comic, because someone connected to Predator will be one of our guests at LA Comic Con in
That's right.
September.
That's right. And yeah, so I did that. I'll tell you, here's some Now. What is this? I've got the entire series.
Yep, I have that issue. Yep.
Of the Terminator. Look at all those books in there, right
Beautiful.
in here. All in minty, super minty condition. But anyway, so we'll have to do another like comic book thing down the line where I can be a lot more prepared with a lot of the comics that I have. But I've actually been it's funny we're doing this Comic-Con one, because I've actually been trying to taper my comic book collection down. I've got like 5,000 books.
Oh,
and what I've been trying to do is taper that thing down. And I've been trying to be very deliberate about books that I'm trying to recall from earlier cons that really meant a lot to me. Like if I went to a comic convention with a friend and I was like, oh, I remember we picked this up together because we were digging in the bins and we found this, so I'll keep those and all the other stuff. I'm just trying to taper some things down in my studio. But that said, let me tell you, I've got a couple cool con memories.
yeah, please.
So I started going to Comic Cons in the very early 90s. And we were moving around. We just came out to California from Detroit by 1989. So we weren't tapped in. I wasn't tapped in here yet. And I didn't really hit the ground running until early 90s with my best friend. And what we would do is the way we would go to con is we would save up for it. And we just have like a milk carton. And we would like tear a little slot in it, and we would put coins in them, and we would just fill as many of those up, the gallon ones, till the next year, and then we would go and turn those in for dollar bills, right?
Awesome.
To go to the con. And that graduated into this, and I've had this ever since I was a kid, ever since those days. But we decided we were way more mature to just use milk cartons. So my buddy bought me this Batman Superman
Oh my
bank.
God, I remember
So
that.
Wow.
listen to this.
There's
It
still
is
money in
packed.
there.
So we joke around, and I'm like, how full is your piggy bank? And so we save up cow money. Nowadays we play with big boy dollars, though. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, Monopoly,
yeah,
son.
that's right, Monopoly money. But all right. So I won't talk too much. I want to tell you one other thing. One big experience. Well, first of all, I've gotten to meet a lot of folks at Comic Con. Lou Ferrigno. I got a few photos with well-known actors and actresses. But one of them, she's she was in a movie with she was in the movie with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. What's her name?
Yeah,
Eva
Ava
Mendes?
Mendes. She's
Ava
my
Mendes. So
she's my guiding star, my shining light.
all right, so bring this back in. All right, so here it is. Eva Mendes. I met her at Comic Con in San Diego. One of the best, coolest persons. She actually chatted with me for several. I was like, man, there's like a lot of people trying to meet this lady, but we were chatting because at the time I was working on a comic book. I had hired an artist, and I was trying to break into the comic book industry. So I've always had this drive to publish work. In fact, it's funny we're doing this too, and I wish I'd had this um, a little closer to me, so I don't have to keep coming up. But I found this the other day. I was going through some of my storage stuff, but this is book two. This is the entire script of one of the comics I had been working on.
Cool. Called The
And
Rude.
The Rude, yeah. I used to own the website, all that. I let it go over the years because I was like, I'm moving on. I'm going to work on some other projects. But anyway, so what's interesting to that is leads me to this kind of experience of I ran into J. Michael Straczynski. You guys know who that is?
Oh yeah.
Do
yeah.
I?
Yeah. So Babylon
Heard of him.
5, he's written like the guy is an absolute like workhorse of comics and film and TV and stuff like that. But I ran into him once. I ran into so this is kind of funny. I'll get to J. Michael Straczynski real quick, but I want to tell you I did meet Captain Kirk, all right, at Comic Con, just total civilian style, walking around, bumped into him. And I got to shake his hand. It was an awesome experience.
He didn't tell you to get a life.
To meet the chat. No,
People get
he was so
lost.
cool. He's short, but he's super cool. And so, but what's funny is his book. When I published my book, when my book was on Amazon, his book was only like 2 books away. We were like competing for the
Oh,
Amazon
wow.
bestseller.
Was
Yeah.
it his Tech War? That Tech War, is that the era or was
No,
that something
it's a
else?
more recent one.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but that being said,
Competing with Nostalgic Nation.
but competing with Nostalgia Nation, yeah.
Cool.
So, anyway, I wish I'd met him at that time and I'd published my book. I'd been like, "Hey, man, our books are like head to head.
Right.
Hope you do well." But anyway, in like 2009 or something, I ran into J. Michael Straczynski on the second floor of San Diego Comic Con, and I had an opportunity to ask him because we were getting a drink. I was getting a drink and he was getting a drink. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm looking at pitching my book. I've got an artist and all that." And I said, "Can you just give me any like tips about how to break in and do well in the comic book industry?" And he was just like straight up, he's like, "Listen, I get asked this all the time. And the main thing, anybody that wants to be in comics is you've gotta, when you start something, you gotta finish it."
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, "I'm not the best writer." He's like, I don't tell the greatest stories. He's like, "But every time I work on something, I finish it and I turn it in on time." He's like, "That's what gets me work regularly." And I thought that was like the best knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Knowledge drop on
for
me.
sure.
But yeah, so anyway, so those are like I have been, just to close, I have been going to Comic Con, mainly San Diego Comic Con, since the early 90s all the way to roughly 2019.
Yeah.
And then I've had business schedule stuff that's come up, and it's prevented me from going consistently. But I'm hoping to be there next year for our whole nostalgia get together.
Yeah,
San Diego.
that's a guarantee. What great advice Straczynski gave you. And
Yeah,
he
man.
worked on Captain Power also, right, Diallo?
I
Didn't
Yeah.
think he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And he was wasn't he the showrunner on Real Ghostbusters season 1 and 2, I think?
He wrote, I don't know if he was a showrunner, but he wrote one of those, like the better episodes that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
The
yeah,
enjoyed.
yeah.
Collect Call to Cthulhu and stuff like that. I think that
Yeah.
was
Okay,
him.
okay, yeah.
So Diallo, as a comic book writer as well, do you think that's good advice that Straczynski gave?
I mean, that's just good advice in anything,
Yeah.
any creative endeavor. As artists especially get kind of have a rap for being flaky, and the ones that actually are successful are the ones that finish, even if they're not the best. I've noticed, like when you look at comic books, it's like, oh, that artist, he's okay, but he's like he actually will finish his work, as opposed to some artists that are incredible, but you know, Art Adams was one. I really loved his art, but he just took too long to do some books, so he still made it. He's still, but it's like there's some people that just take a little bit longer and they don't get as much work because you need to crank it out for that business. So,
Yeah, yeah, and Diallo, for everyone that's wondering, Diallo's had some really cool panels at LA Comic Con in the past, and of course he'll be with us all weekend long, the last weekend of September at LA Comic Con. Diallo, what are some of your favorite or fond con memories, or not so fond con memories?
before we get to that, you guys were like unlocking my memories about Terminator comic
Oh,
books.
please.
Do you remember? Because I haven't thought about this since like maybe I read it, and I really love this. There was like a Terminator comic. I feel like it was like Matt Wagner did the art, and it was like set in San
Yeah,
Francisco,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's the Dark Horse
it was
ones.
like he went to the wrong Sarah Connor
Yep.
or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much the first run. I think Wagner did the first run of it, and they because they kind of even though they were kind of standalone arcs and everything, they had characters that kind of went through them the entire way. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
and it was all in San Francisco, and they kind of
Yeah.
yeah, that was all the first Dark Horse run and everything, and it's so good. I love it. I
Okay.
mean, for me, like with the Dark Horse stuff, my head canon is
Hmm.
Aliens, then the Dark Horse comics, Terminator 2, then the Dark Horse comics. So yeah,
Yeah.
dude, all that stuff was great. And then going back to the Now stuff, rereading the Now Terminator stuff, I don't love it as much. Art wise, it's okay. I appreciate what they were trying to do, but the Alex Ross Burning Earth series
Mm-hmm.
is so good that I probably reread it once a year. It
Wow.
holds up well. The art is Alex Ross, so it's absolutely amazing, and
Hmm.
it's all future story. It's an entire story about John Connor
Hmm.
taking on Skynet, and it's all painted by Alex Ross and everything. And
Oh, cool.
there's a big backstory about his falling out with Now Comics because of
Hmm.
it and everything. Anyways, Diallo, I'm sorry to sorry to have usurped your time here.
No, no, no. I'm like I'm totally into this. I'm like it's totally like I said. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I really loved that. It was like next level like comic book writing. That particular story. I remember loving it.
And I think Wagner did the first arc of the Predator comic as well. I was a big Wagner fan.
I want to give the writer some credit. His name is Ron Fortier. He worked on the Green Hornet series in comics before he worked on that Terminator series. So he was the writer. He worked on so many comics before that. Popeye, Street Fighter Ocean comics in 1985. He was Scare Tales by Charlton Comics. He's worked on a lot of stuff. The Incredible Hulk in 1993. Megaton, which is the special that Savage Dragon, you know, but he's done a lot of work.
I still have my first 100 issues of Savage Dragon. I was a
Oh
big
yeah,
Nice.
Eric Larson fan.
Nice.
that's awesome,
That
man. I
was it
love
was
Eric
like one
Larson.
of the best books, man. I remember when that
Yeah.
came out. Like that was the one like,
That was the only
the
one that was consistent.
yeah, I was like, going back to that. But I mean, I've always loved Eric Larson's
Me
art,
too.
but yeah, he was the only one that kept coming out. And there was other. I remember the Pit. Like I really loved what's his
Oh
name,
yeah.
Dale Keown. Keown. I don't know how you pronounce
Yeah,
his
Dale
last name.
Keown, yeah.
But it was like I mean, I remember it was like almost a year before issue number 2 came out, and it was
Yeah.
like, and it just felt like it was like 4 panels, 4 pages, and then the rest was ads.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then over in what was his name? He did, I think, Wetworks. What was his name? The
Oh,
artist.
Willis.
Yeah,
Parcasio.
Will's
Yeah, yeah.
Parcasio.
Portacio. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was another one. It was like, oh man. But I think he had some family stuff going on. That was why
I
he.
Uh,
think he had family stuff, and I'm trying to verify, but I remember hearing back in the day that Dale Keown went to jail for a short period, like not for like
Oh,
killing anybody or something, but like
yeah.
I think that's what kind of made the pit sort of, stop. And that also could have been an urban legend that I heard,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Let's just put it out there though.
Right. No, I
Yeah, let's put it
know.
out there. Yeah,
I
$2 late
apologize
fee.
if that's wrong.
Breaking. Well, you know what's
Yeah.
funny?
Yeah.
I always thought that since they made Invincible into this amazing Prime cartoon, I always thought that Savage Dragon should have something like that because I
Yeah.
feel like it works in that. Now I know there was a
Was
cartoon.
it? Yeah, I was about to say it was a cartoon for a
There was a
second, wasn't
cartoon,
it?
but it wasn't that great.
It was
Yeah.
on
Oh, it
Fox
sucked.
Kids or something,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be that world like taken
More
into a serious, more
mature.
mature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully that
Absolutely.
happens.
I'm still
Yeah.
waiting for a flaming carrot cartoon. I don't know if we're ever gonna get that. But, you
Oh,
guys
That's a
man.
deep indie cut right there.
Yeah,
buddy.
thanks.
Good job.
That's a
Good
deep
job.
cut.
I
For
appreciate
sure.
it. And before Diallo, you talk about your con memories. I think it's
Poor
perfect that
Diallo.
we're talking about all these
I'm
comic
just
book.
here. Whatever.
I think it's perfect that we're talking about all these comic book references because Comic Con used to be just about comics mostly, and now it's developed and turned into a pop culture phenomenon is for what it is. And so, you're also unlocking a lot of core memories with me as well. The Blackthorn comic book series that put out all those 3D adaptations of movies like Rambo, I think they did one of, or Rambo 3 or something. Anyways, that's in the 80s. We will definitely cover a comic book centric episode down the road. But Diallo, like besides the memories that are unlocked, what are your fond con memories from back in the day?
So I only went to one con in the 80s, and it was in, San Francisco. It was like on the peninsula somewhere, like Foster City or San Mateo or something. And it was at this hotel, and I remember going in and walking in with my friend, and some guy was like, "Where are your passes?" And that's my memory of my first con. It was like, why, like, it was like, and I remember everybody in the little ballroom stopped and looked at us, and it was just like, dude, why are you picking on us? It's like,
Record scratching.
yeah, yeah. It's like, what? It's so random. Anyway, and then I also remember, I think I brought this up in the last thing we recorded because we're talking about aliens or something. My friend got the Aliens bootleg at that con, and it was like a
Yes.
big deal. Like it was like the biggest deal. And I remember him like I think he paid like 35 bucks for it, which like now like in 1980 dollars, it's like about 2,000 bucks for it or something.
Something like that. Yeah, with tariffs included. So
Yeah. But yeah, I don't, I went to the con. I probably bought some back issues, but I did, that I didn't really start going to cons like semi regularly until like 2000. That was the first time I went to San Diego Comic Con. So, um, never really, I don't have a lot of con experiences.
no, but you when you said you went to a con in the 80s in the Bay Area, a part of me was like, are you going to mention the one that I went to back in the day? Because it started triggering this memory. It was a Star Trek convention that I went to.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, I didn't it wasn't I've never gone to a con that was like for a specific like
Yeah.
property. It's always just been big. I'm like the biggest Star Trek fan, but you wouldn't catch me at one of those actually.
Well, it's probably a good thing you didn't go to this one because it was not that eventful. Starlog, which owned Fangoria and all the other magazines back in the day, put on the conventions. Then it became Creation Entertainment, and after they kind of forged together. And I went to a slew of Fangoria conventions back in the day. Go back to old like podcasting after dark episodes where I basically talk about my love of Fangoria conventions. That's where I met Tony Timpone, the editor of Fangoria magazine, who has been on the show. Really great guy. But Creation would sometimes give you free tickets to go to other cons because those cons weren't doing so well. And I remember getting a free pass to a Star Trek convention at Nob Hill Plaza, I think, in San Francisco. And with the hope that even though it was a Star Trek centered convention, they would have Doctor Who merchandise there. Because, of course, outside of a comic book store, it was really hard to acquire things that were no longer like being made, right? You couldn't just go to Toys R Us and get the old school figures. It's like once it was gone, it was gone. That's it. There was no eBay back in the day, y'all. There was no Ask, Borrow, Give on Facebook. There was no Craigslist where you could find these things now, right? Or antique stores were different back then too. They actually sold antiques. So if the Doctor Who toys that I cherished, this company called Doppel put them out, Dapol. If those were like non-existent, the only way you could find them is at going to conventions, right, where people would sell that stuff. So I was going hoping for that, and I remember walking into the main area to get my badge and seeing this guy in a Starfleet uniform for the Next Generation chasing around a Klingon. The Klingon was, pretty big dude, and they were chasing each other around on the vinyl floor or whatever, linoleum floor, and suddenly, there's yelling at each other, "Get back here!" and the Klingons yelling Klingon, and and suddenly you hear this smack on the ground, and I turn around, and the Klingon is face planted on the ground. Letting out this yelp because he
Oh no.
got the wind knocked out of him. And my brother and I, because we went to all the cons together, I mean, you did what kids did in the 80s did. You just
You
laugh
laughed
at
at
him,
him.
and so, and then of course the guy in the Starfleet uniform goes, "I win." And I'm like, "Oh, do you though? Do you really win?"
Oh
Why don't you
man.
check on your buddy? But they had like Brent Spiner there and Marina Sirtis and
Certus.
Sirtis, sorry, and gosh, Michael Dorn there.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like it was a different time. Going to these conventions back in the 80s and the 90s, you could approach people. Like you said, John,
Totally.
you could approach
Totally.
Eva Mendes and like talk to her and it wasn't a big deal. But now it's a different thing. And autographs were cheaper too. It was like
Oh
$5
yeah.
for an autograph, $10,
Oh yeah.
whatever. We didn't have iPhones back then, so you couldn't take a million photos. But if you took a picture, they wouldn't even charge you.
Yeah, dude, Peter Mayhew, rest in peace. He was doing autographs way back in the day, and you can get one. I remember like plotting out how much he was charging from like year to year. And it was like $5, $7, $10, $15. It was like going up year, like every couple years it would go up, right? But yeah, man, you could get not only could you get autographs and talk to some of these folks, you also, like you said, you could actually buy comic books.
Right.
And one of the best Comic Con memories I've had, or convention memories, is actually going to smaller conventions like CalCon in Orange County or something like that. And I just randomly got invited to one of these and went with a buddy. And I ended up picking up like the entire run of Usagi Yojimbo
Oh,
in
cool.
comic books, like minty condition. I picked up several Dell books. I bought a couple Zorro books that I wanted, and back then you could be really eclectic with your collection because you could actually afford these books. You could go to a convention and have $200 in your pocket, just cash,
Yeah.
and you could buy pretty much everything you wanted, like
Yeah.
within reason, right? But like most of the stuff you wanted, you could buy it without going tangentially into like toys or like other things.
Right.
And those were the days, man. And now I was just at Del Mar Fairgrounds, and I went to Rocket Con, which is a good offshoot show. Right before Comic Con a few months, I did a video on it, and it's all it is become. And no knock on them. I mean, it's great. There were
Yeah.
some comic vendors there, but it's mainly vintage toys
Yeah.
and which I love. I love vintage toys, but I wouldn't call myself a vintage toy collector.
Hmm.
And I started with like non-sports cards, sports cards, and comic books. Those were the main things I collected for years. And then suddenly they started disappearing. And now you got to be a specialist. I've got to go to
Right.
sports card show to see sports cards only, right?
Right.
I've got to go to a Pokemon show. I don't collect Pokemon, but I know that there are Pokemon shows.
Yeah.
And then you got to go to a pure comic show to buy comics. Otherwise, you're at risk of going to a show and maybe seeing two or three vendors max.
Right.
No more dollar bins, 50-cent bins, any of that. Now they've become $5 or $10 bins for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, just the fondest memories I had is digging through bins with my friends and trying to find a few gems here and there, walking away and going, dude, look what I got. I found the following things, or I was able to complete a full set, my full set of Silver Surfer.
Yeah, that was always the goal, was trying to complete sets. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
John, like, you know, if I didn't express it earlier, the cons that I was going to, they were just guys, all guys. There's no ladies there. Just guys,
guys.
with long boxes.
All
Like,
guys.
that was it. Just long boxes as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
Everyone had a table with long boxes, and there were no toys. Like, maybe there was one person with toys set up, and at the time, I mean, those, you know, late 80s, early 90s, those toys were like 60s and 70s. I didn't care about them. I was just there to find comic books. I was just there to complete runs. The first, you know, series that I mentioned Haywire, that was the first series I ever finished, but the first character I ever collected was Punisher. And like, I had the first like 20 issues, and, you know, I would go and I would find like an issue to fill in the gaps type of thing. But that was it. I was just there for comics. And then later on, it just pretty much became strictly Aircell comics. Anything by Barry Blair, I would read. A lot of adult comics, you know, by Barry Blair and stuff like that Aircell would put out. But yeah, John, it was just long boxes as far as the eye can see, and that's what my mom's basement looks like now. I have like freaking 20 long boxes down there that, you know, one day I'm going to figure out what to do with. But
I think you all might agree that we need to have Corey wear a T-shirt at LA Comic-Con that says, "I'm here for the comics and the long boxes."
I'm here for the adult
I
comics.
thought he was going
and
to
the
say,
long
I'm here for the comics and the ladies.
Yeah.
and you're all out of ladies.
And you're all like,
I actually just had a best con memory, and it's super recent because it was just last year, but it was at LA Comic Con, so I think it's relevant.
Please.
And it actually has to do with actually getting a comic book. So I way back in the day, I was really into, this is actually why I stopped collecting comic books. I was collecting Justice. I don't even remember. It was like a DC, and it was like
yeah.
Alex Rossi kind of.
It was someone else drew the pencils, but he did the colors. He painted it. It was actually a great merging of art styles.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like one of my favorite things at the time. And it was like kind of like I had kind of stopped not collecting, but I kind of was getting right back into it. There's a lot of books I was really into, like Birds of Prey. And then over in DC, or over in Marvel, I was into a bunch of books. And anyway, and both companies had like these big crossovers at the time. So in Marvel, it was Civil War, and DC was like Final Crisis or something like that. I can't remember. Identity Crisis, something like that. Anyways, both of them just killed my, like, those crossovers like got in the way of like these story arcs that I was really into. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done collecting comic books. I don't want to invest time in stuff that like just goes nowhere, right? So that was really the last time I collected them. But I was in the middle of like getting Justice, and it didn't get disrupted, but I just stopped collecting them. So I never got the last issue. So I was at LA Comic Con last year, and Jim Kruger was set up, and I had met him. I met him, and I known him from some events that I've gone to. And then I walked up to him, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And he had like, I was telling him, I was like, you know what, like, one of the last really good memories of a book that I had, and it's one of my all-time favorites, was Justice. But I was like, I never finished it. And we were kind of talking. I started to walk away. He's like, "Hey, come over here. You know what?" And he pulled out the last issue and signed it and gave it to me without me even asking for it. Yeah. So that was like actually my, like, I think that was like one of my best, like, and it had to do with a comic book. It had nothing to do with like anything else, but it was really nice. It was like one of the sweetest things that's ever happened. I almost didn't want to take it because,
Just when you think you were out of comics, it pulls you back in.
Yeah, it pulls me back in. Yeah. So.
Well, and for those that are new to the show and haven't heard us before, this is how Diallo works. Diallo will like hit a home run at the last, towards the end, and be like, "Actually, I do have something to contribute." And then suddenly he does, and everybody's going, "Oh, it's such a good memory." I was going to add on to that. One thing that popped into my head, and that's a great story, by the way. And I think I vaguely remember that because we were together and we had a panel.
Yeah.
Traveling to conventions. I remember going to so many Fangoria conventions back in the day with my brother Eric, and traveling down to Burbank from San Jose, or traveling down to Pasadena, going to Pasadena and going, "This is a really cool city," and never experiencing Los Angeles County area before until, yeah, I would go to these conventions. It would give me an excuse to go to these different places. And I will just tag on one little fun memory for our, older or no, our younger kids who probably don't remember the craze of Blair Witch Project when it came out. But we had rented a car at Pasadena Fangoria convention back in the day. And when we came out to our car, there were videotapes on some of the cars, and they weren't labeled. And there was a videotape on our car. We went back to our hotel room, we had a VCR there. Depending on the kind of hotel you went to, some were already pre-stocked. But put the tape in the VCR, and it was clips from the Blair Witch Project. And it was a promo video for the Blair Witch. I wish I still had it. It was so cool. It was so creepy because it was so eerie. It was just like, and everything around us was quiet. And I remember how much that movie terrified me, that whole craze back in the day. But those Fangoria conventions were really special to me. And, John, you mentioned like smaller cons, and I think have in the past mentioned like Scott Zillner, who's a friend of ours who does a lot of shows. He does a Power Morphicon. He does one that's cartoon centric. He does Pasadena Comic Con, obviously, that we've attended and done panels at, which is great. And I recommend that people seek out those smaller ones. There was a time when people are saying cons are dead. There's only San Diego Comic Con. That's it. Well, they're not. They're back. And there may not be a Xena convention anymore. There may not be a Star Trek Voyager or a Farscape one like I mentioned the other day, but they have those people there at those cons, and some of them are not charging an arm and a leg for an autograph or a photo. And if there's somebody that you really admire, I hope it's a positive experience for you versus the person you admire and then having the jar next to them where you put the money and they push the jar towards you as you're talking to them. Not that that's ever happened.
Honest to God, dude, you nailed it. I of all the shows I've been to over the last 30 something years, the great majority of these folks are the nicest folks you will ever meet. They're so good. They will treat you with kindness and respect, and just are so interested in hearing your story and how you relate to that. And a lot of times it's not the monetary thing. It's just kind of a necessity because that's how kind of they earn their living and kind of like going on to these tours, these convention tours. So that's understandable. But for the most part, the majority of them just love the interaction with the fans and things like that. And I love it. I love seeing these folks. When I was at RocketCon, there were folks I'd never even known, and it just that's also like testament of you getting older because there's some things that you just missed and you're like, wow, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
But they sometimes I will walk around in those areas where they're doing the signings and just listen to some of the conversations because I'm kind of wired that way, and I might be shooting a little bit of B-roll or something. And some of the stuff I hear are just like, wow, this is kind of a cool story. And I wish I could showcase it on my own thing. But I'm like, that's kind of a private thing between them and the creator. And I can't tell you how many cool things I heard in conversation with Kevin Eastman, for example. He was there. He's the guest of honor and fans. And that line was super long and people were patient and he was patient. In fact, it's funny because we went to the restroom at the same time. I'm just going to share this because I didn't tell anybody, but he was like 2 urinals away from me, and I was just like, should I say something to Kevin Eastman at the interval? I know the unwritten law of being at the urinal, you don't say anything to anybody, right? So I was just like, I'm not going to bug him, but I was like, this close has just been, what's up, dude? But he's the nicest dude. But like I said, I think that going to the smaller cons, that's where you can actually have some really in-depth conversation with people that you admire or have just followed over the years. That's the opportunity,
And I will tag on a memory because I know Diallo will appreciate this, and I have to do this. It's a shout out to Bodie because obviously Bodie's at school right now, not here with us, but he is an honorary Knight person as well. Taking him to PowerCon back in the day, which is I think it's in Ohio now, but it used to be close to Diallo and I was in Torrance and very intimate. And that's when Bodie's first experience going to conventions, and he dressed up like He-Man. If you go to my personal page, you can find images on there. And we're in the Toys That Made Us episode about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And this ties in with 80s Kids Unite because You had all the actors, the voice actors, sans the guy who did the voice for He-Man there, meeting people. They had the He-Man 2000 cast there. The guy who played Orko, who's sadly no longer with us. He was the MC of the costume contest and had some really great moments with Bodhi on stage. Diallo knows all about this because we were there. It was just like, it was phenomenal to see that kind of warmth and positivity. And a guy gave us a hand-drawn sketch from one of the He-Man cartoons to Bodhi because he thought it was so cool. I'm like, Bodhi, this is so special. And he was like 4 at the time. He didn't know what it was all about. But it's mounted on our wall, because it was special. Anyways, I think these are the moments we're talking about. And if you've had negative moments, we've all had negative moments at these things. If you go to enough things in your lifetime, you're going to have some moments where you're like, oh, that sucked. But I can tell you this. If you come to LA Comic-Con, end of September, Saturday is the day we're doing our panels. We're doing 2 panels. Go to LA Comic-Con's website and look up 80s Kids Unite, and you'll see where we're listed. You'll see who's on the panel. Go to our socials, and you'll see that. Go to our socials anyways, and just, give us a subscribe or like or whatever. You'll see what we're doing. And I can tell you this. What you're going to get out of our panels is some nostalgic joy. That's what this show is all about. It's just doing some positive things for all y'all. And we're going to have some meet and greets afterwards at the Geekscape booth on the main floor. John's going to be selling his book there, Nostalgia Nation. And our other guest will be there as well. Diallo hopefully will bring some comic books along with him too. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have some 80s Kids Unite stickers in that gem style logo. So if you see us, and you talk to us and actually have a conversation with us, we'll give you a sticker. And we're going to have a good time. I had a great time with you guys today. We can continue this on, but we'll continue it on at LA Comic-Con.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking a lot about comic books there, John. We're going to talk a lot about the old stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, you know who has a good time every time he comes to any con convention is Sam Jones, because he always recognizes me.
You know what, Diallo? It's funny you say that because Sam Jones, who's been on the show, might be back later this year. So stay tuned for that on $2 late fee. When I went online with him initially, and I had him on $2 late fee, he's like, we met at Pasadena Comic-Con, right? And I go, yeah, you were there with your friend. And I go, yeah, Diallo. He's like, yeah. He's like, I was in the middle of a conversation and I turned to see if you guys were there and you were gone. And I thought, oh, I hope they're not upset with me because, I didn't mean to like just blow you guys off. Sam Jones, if you haven't seen The Life After Flash, and that's a good glimpse into what convention life is for some of these actors.
Yeah.
Very fascinating documentary.
But it was awesome at Pasadena Comic-Con because I've heard Diallo tell this stories. Like every time I go, you always say that, Frost. You always say I got a bad feeling about this drop. And every time we go, and then it happened. It happened right in front of my eyes. I saw him look at Diallo, and he's like, "Hey!" And I was like, I think I nudged Zach. I was like, "It's happening."
and John just showed a picture of Lisa Downs and him.
This is Lisa Downs. She came to my studio, and we did. I'm going to be in that Life After the Goonies documentary, and that comes out next year. And she is also the person who wrote the foreword in my book.
Right.
So when you see forward by Lisa Downs, that's her. So
and Lisa is actually a friend of $2 late fee because she is on a upcoming episode to talk about Flash Gordon. That's going to drop in November. A little tease for y'all. And Rick Bakewell, who is Lisa's cameraman and I believe editor of that Goonies doc, he was on the show to talk about the Goonies doc back in the day. So there's this whole nostalgic community that we have together.
Sure.
It's all good people. I highly encourage y'all to watch Life After Flash. It's fascinating.
Good. It's really very good. And I saw Sam Jones actually at RocketCon. Dude doesn't mess around. He's got a big booth.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, Sam Jones, man, bringing the thunder to RocketCon. But yeah, nice guy for sure.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that will, it is obviously they got to make some money while they're there, but he does have some really cool stuff to give out. So he's one of those guys that you should get an autograph from.
I'm sure.
Hey, if you see us and you want us to sign something, we'll sign it too. All right. So
I want you to sign your name across my heart.
Can I write Terrence Trent D'Arby on there?
My baby.
Whoa, and I will write
80s.
"Wishing Well" on there. Yeah, it all tracks. It all tracks. Everybody listening, thank y'all. Everybody watching, thank y'all. Hopefully, we see you at LA Comic-Con at the end of September, and say what's up. Come to our panels. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff happening that weekend, and we'll be there all weekend pretty much. So look for the '80s Kids Unite night crew. Family, night people.
I still like Night Boys.
I mean, Night Boys, it's all good. It's Boyz. So it like
There you
kind of,
go.
you know, anyways, love y'all. Keep it real. Keep it, no.
We don't have an outro. We need
don't.
an outro.
I always say, I've been saying recently, be safe, be
Stay
awesome,
rad.
be rad. Yeah, stay rad.
rad.
There you go. All right, everybody. Until next time in LA Comic-Con, we'll see you later.
See you guys
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.
80s Kids Unite is brought to you by Hungry Hungry Hippos, the loudest tabletop game in history. And by Nickelback, Zach's favorite band. If you'd like to suggest topics for this show, go to the Patreon of either $2 late fee or Podcasting After Dark, or both. All links are in the show notes. We love you.
Oh, listen, I just wanted to say goodbye and remind you that the good guys always win, even in the 80s.